When Representative Jasmine Crockett placed a birth certificate and a paternity test right in the middle of a live hearing, no one thought it would expose the president or send the First Lady to the hospital. The gavel hit twice, echoing through the high-ceiling room like a warning. The House Oversight Committee was in session in room 2154 of the Rayburn Building. Most of the representatives were barely paying attention, scrolling on their phones or whispering to their aides. Representative Jasmine Crockett adjusted her mic, cleared her throat, and shuffled her notes. What she said next froze the entire room. "I'd like to redirect my question," she said, calm but firm, and enter in to record several documents connected to unreported financial transactions made from a private trust fund, a fund that looks directly tied to the President of the United States. A few heads snapped up. Others squinted at her. The chair leaned forward. "Miss Crockett, I'm going to ask you to stay on topic." "I am on topic, sir," she replied, without looking at him. "This is a hearing on federal transparency. The public deserves to know when a sitting president uses hidden accounts to support the secret life of a child born outside his marriage." Silence. No coughs, no movement, just silence, and the soft buzz of live cameras cutting across cable. News Representative Blaine Kessinger from Idaho finally spoke. "Miss Crockett, is this a personal attack, or is it a verified claim?" She lifted a thin manila folder and held it up. "This isn't an attack, it's evidence, and I'm giving it to this committee right now." She didn't trust anyone, else she walked the folder forward herself and placed it right in front of the chair. Inside were copies of a birth certificate, bank wires from a Delaware trust, and 3 full-color emails with timestamps and intact metadata. Then she walked back to her seat. The cameras followed her. "Let the record show," she continued, "that these documents allege President Donald J. Trump fathered a child with a former staff member while married to the current First Lady, and that serious efforts have been made to hide this from the public." The tension cracked like a piano string. Aides rushed. Phones rang. Someone whispered, "Cut her mic." But it was too late. The broadcast was already nationwide. The chair looked stunned. "This committee is not a stage for political theater," he said. Jasmine didn't blink. "Then maybe it's time we stop treating the truth like bad PR." Journalists in the gallery were already tweeting. Producers in control. Rooms were flipping scripts. What started as a dull Thursday had suddenly turned into the kind of moment that rewrites headlines for weeks. Representative Kessinger leaned back, rubbed his chin, then looked at her again. "You're saying there's a child, a real child, and that money has been paid for years to keep him hidden." "I'm not saying it," Jasmine answered, steady. "The documents are." She paused, "and before anyone in this room tries to spin this, let me be clear. I vetted everything. I spoke to the woman. I traced the money. And if you need more proof, I have it." A murmur moved through the room. The chair picked up the folder and opened it. His hand shook slightly. One email had a White House domain. One congresswoman whispered, "This can't be real." But her voice didn't sound like she believed it. Jasmine took a breath. She knew what was coming. Recess, denials, claims of fabrication, maybe even threats. But the words were already out. The documents were in. The cameras had caught it. Meanwhile, just 2 floors above the chaos, the First Lady was about to be handed a note that would change her whole world. But what happened next didn't come from the chamber. It came from the hallway outside the press room where Melania and Trump was being kept from the truth. Jasmine had just revealed the folder sat untouched for a full minute. Not because no one wanted to see it, but because no one knew who should touch it first. It felt radioactive. Chairman Howard Greeley finally reached for it. His fingers hesitated on the cover. The room watched as he opened the flap and pulled out the top paper. A birth certificate from a small hospital in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Dated May 3, 2012. Father, Donald John Trump. Mother, Layla Dawson. Representative. Greeley's lips parted slightly. He looked over the rims of his glasses first, at Jasmine Crockett, then at the ranking member beside him. Nobody spoke. Jasmine leaned into her mic. "You're looking at the birth certificate of a 13 boy. His mother was on the Trump campaign payroll in 2011. She traveled with the team on multiple trips between Florida and Nevada. She was listed as a press assistant, but she never showed up on official staff directories." Representative Elias Monroe from Oregon squinted. "That name, Dawson. I remember her. Blonde, mid-30s. Then she disappeared after 2014. Jasmine nodded. She moved to a gated community outside Naples, changed jobs, bought a house in cash, quiet life until the money stopped last fall. Greeley flipped to the next paper. A bank transfer, $37,000. Every month for over a decade, all sent through a trust that traced back to a shell company in Wilmington, Delaware, and on the paperwork, buried under layers of signatories, a familiar name, Donald J. Trump Jr., listed as alternate trustee. Representative Kessinger sat up straighter. You're saying Trump Jr. helped hide this? Partially, Jasmine replied. The structure was set up so payments couldn't be tied directly to the president. But legally, someone close had to sign off. 3 people had access to that account. All of them are either family or longtime executives of the Trump organization. The third set of papers emails, the first showed a thread between Leela, Dawson, and a private attorney tied to the Trump family. The second, dated just days before the child's birth, confirmed an agreement for quiet support and secrecy. The third email came from the president's executive assistant, marked urgent. It requested travel plans for Miss Dawson and mentioned her upcoming delivery. Chairman Greeley exhaled and shut the folder. Do you understand what you're accusing the president of, Representative Crockett? I'm not accusing, she said. I'm presenting facts. Whether they're inconvenient or not doesn't change their weight. The camera stayed. Locked on Jasmine's face, she wasn't smiling. She wasn't acting. Just calm, steady, and clearly ready for the storm about to hit. You've verified these documents? Greeley asked. Through independent channels, Jasmine answered. 2 attorneys, 1 forensic accountant. And I had the emails checked by a cybersecurity firm before today's hearing. He looked like he wanted to push harder, but couldn't. Her preparation was airtight. Representative Monroe broke the silence. Does the child know? Jasmine hesitated. He's been told his father is someone important, but not who. He's a good kid, quiet life, smart, plays piano, goes to public school. Her voice caught slightly on that last part. It was the only moment she showed emotion. And why now? Kessinger asked. Why bring this out here instead of through proper legal channels? She didn't look away, because legal channels get buried with this family. I've seen the silence, the fear, the cover-ups. I'm not here for politics. I'm here because this child exists, because Melania deserves the truth, because the country deserves to know the full measure of the man in the Oval Office. At that moment, every phone in the chamber buzzed. An alert, breaking. First Lady Melania Trump reportedly collapses inside the Capitol after shocking claims. Crockett's eyes flickered toward the gallery. A CNN producer gasped. No one knew yet where Melania had been when the story broke, but the fallout was already moving fast and in public view. Chairman Greeley stood. This committee will recess for 10 minutes. He slammed the gavel harder than needed. Most representatives filed out in silence, glued to their phones. Only Jasmine stayed in her seat, staring straight ahead, but upstairs away from the cameras, the woman at the center of the president's image was being rushed behind closed doors, as aides scrambled to contain a moment that had already slipped out of their hands. 2 floors above the chaos of room 2154, the East Wing communications team had been getting ready for a small press event with the First Lady. It was supposed to be low-stakes photos with children, a literacy project, and a short rehearsed statement. Only a handful of local reporters were there, most of them more worried about camera angles than about national news. Melania Trump stood in a powder blue dress by the display table, her face fixed in the polished calm she had carried for years. She was scheduled to speak in 5 minutes. That's when her senior aide, Marissa Langdon, walked in faster than usual. No clipboard, no whisper, just a firm hand on Melania's elbow and a low voice. We have a situation. Melania barely turned her head. What kind? Oversight committee. She just accused the president of having a child with a staffer. She says she has proof, documents, birth certificate. For a second, Melania's face didn't change, but her posture did. What documents? She asked, even quieter now. She brought them into the hearing. Live cameras caught all of it. Every network has the feed. It's already trending. Melania stepped back from the table, away from the children's books she was supposed to highlight. She lifted one hand to her chest, fingers stiff, like she was trying to keep her balance. Her aide moved closer. "Sit," Marisa said softly, but Melania waved her off. "I want to see it." They rushed her into a side room, a narrow space near the elevator usually used for staff prep. A small monitor was mounted on the wall, already showing the live feed from the hearing. The stream froze for a second, then Jasmine Crockett's face appeared calm and steady. "Lives a quiet life, smart, plays piano, goes to public school." Melania stared. She didn't blink. The room was silent, except for Jasmine's voice finishing her sentence. "Because Melanian deserves the truth." That line hit like a fist. Melanian's eyes widened slightly, but she said nothing. Just stood still. "Madam First Lady?" Marisa asked carefully. "Should I call medical?" Melania shook her head, but then she suddenly reached for the back of a chair. She missed. Her knees buckled fast, too fast for anyone to catch her. She collapsed sideways against the table with a sharp thud that echoed in the small room. Chaos erupted. 2 aides called for help at once. A Secret Service agent rushed in from the hallway and radioed the medics in the building. Someone yanked a curtain across the door, while cameras just outside kept rolling, completely unaware. Within 90 seconds, paramedics were in the room. Her pulse was strong, but her breathing was uneven. She came to once, mumbled something in Slovenian, then closed her eyes again. A staffer tried to hold her upright, while another pressed a cold compress to her neck. In the hallway, the word "collapsed" was already spreading. A Fox News producer overheard it from a staffer and texted her editor. By the time Melania was wheeled out on a stretcher, covered by a navy blanket, cameras had gathered outside the rear service entrance. They caught only a glimpse, but it was enough. Within minutes, Melania Trump collapses after live hearing was trending everywhere. No one outside knew exactly what she had seen or how much she had heard, but the timing was impossible to ignore. Inside the secure medical suite of the Capitol, she lay quietly, an IV in her arm, eyes closed, face pale. Marisa sat beside her, her hands shaking. "She said it like it was nothing," Melania whispered. Not opening her eyes, Marisa didn't answer. There was nothing to say. She said it like it was fact. Across town, President Trump's aides were scrambling to reach him mid-flight. He was on his way from Dallas to a closed-door fundraiser. In Boise, his phone was off supposedly, but one staffer had a direct line to his pilot, and Jasmine Crockett's name was now splashed across every chyron in America. Back in the hearing chamber, though Crockett wasn't finished, because someone at that table still thought they could shut her down. Chairman Greeley returned from recess looking 10 years older. The room had changed. It was louder, tighter, more restless. Journalists had come back in, some whispering into headsets, others typing furiously on their phones. Aides crowded the exits. Even the air felt heavier. Jasmine Crockett sat calm, elbows on the desk, fingers loosely laced under her chin. She hadn't touched her phone, she hadn't looked up, but she knew everything had shifted. At the far end of the table, seated under the seal of the United States Congress, was Christopher Nuland, senior legal counsel to the White House, appointed just 6 months ago. Young, sharp suit, normally quick-witted. But today, he looked cornered. He reached for his water, took a sip, then placed both hands flat on the table. "Representative Crockett, the materials you submitted contain unverified claims." "They're verified," she cut in. "I submitted sworn statements and certified documents. If you want to deny them, do it on the record." The cameras turned toward him. "I'd caution you against presenting unproven allegations as fact," he said, slower now. "This could be considered defamatory." Jasmine didn't blink. "Tell me what part is false." He hesitated. "Go ahead," she said again. "I'll wait." Nuland shifted in his chair. "Madam Chair, she asked you a direct question," Monroe interrupted, now fully engaged. "You're here for the president. Either this is fake or it's not. Which is it?" "I haven't had time to review the material thoroughly," Nuland said. "But I can assure the committee no." Jasmine cut him off. "Don't assure us, prove us wrong." The room went still. She leaned forward slightly. "Tell us the child doesn't exist. Tell us those emails are fake. Tell us that trust fund isn't real. Tell the American people why the First Lady collapsed today if, not because she just learned her husband might have another child." Nuland opened his mouth, closed it behind him, one of his aides pale, frantically on his phone. Jasmine saw it. Everyone did. "Don't look at your staff," she said, her voice low. "You're the face they sent. Speak." "I'm not authorized to respond to personal family matters of the president," Newland finally said. "That's outside the scope of this committee." There it was. A legal dodge, but not a denial. Greeley raised a hand. "Let's stay focused. Representative Crockett, are you alleging misuse of federal resources in relation to these transactions?" "I'm saying this," Jasmine replied. "The trust fund was built using shell corporations that were never disclosed in financial statements. I'm saying those companies got special tax breaks. I'm saying security was used to escort Miss Dawson on government flights. That's federal misuse," Monroe jumped in. "Exactly," Jasmine said. "Intentional concealment." "Over a decade?" Kessinger asked. She nodded. "Over a decade." Newland leaned back, exhaling slowly through his nose, like a man who had just realized he'd walked into a fire without an extinguisher. Chairman Greeley looked around the room. "We'll reconvene for a special session to dig deeper into these claims. But Representative Crockett, thank you for bringing this forward." "Don't thank me," she said. "Just do your jobs." She gathered her notes. Her phone buzzed once. A single message from an unknown number. "You're making powerful enemies." She stared at it for a moment, then powered the phone off without replying. Across the hall, Newland huddled with his aides, whispering quickly, jaw tight, shoulders stiff. He looked less like a man defending the president and more like someone realizing the iceberg was far bigger than he thought. One aide was overheard saying, "We need to brief the West Wing now, not later." Another said, "He's gonna lose it," but Jasmine was already moving, papers in hand, head high, cameras trailing her. Someone called her name, but she didn't turn, because what no one in that room knew was how deep this rabbit hole went, and how far she was ready to follow it. 3 weeks earlier, Jasmine Crockett had been sitting alone in her D.C. apartment, barefoot, glasses sliding down her nose, buried in budget summaries she didn't want to read. It was after midnight. Her aides had gone home hours ago. The city outside was quiet, just the soft glow of brake lights and the occasional rumble of a metrobus. Her phone lit up with one message from an encrypted email account she didn't recognize. "He pays her through a fake trust. You'd never find it unless you knew exactly what to look for." She stared at the message for a few seconds, thumb hovering. She didn't reply, didn't forward it. Instead, she snapped a screenshot and locked her phone. She'd seen plenty of junk tips before. Most were just noise-angry staffers, board bloggers, online trolls trying to mess with her. But something about this one felt different. It was way too specific, and it came with a file attached labeled Dawson17.pdf. She clicked it open. Inside was a blurry copy of a birth certificate. A child, Layla Dawson, mother listed, father line had a shaky signature. The first name hit her like a brick: Donald J. Trump. Jasmine didn't sleep that night. By 8 o'clock the next morning, she was already in her office, calling in a favor from an old IRS contact, someone she trusted from before Congress, a forensic accountant with one hard rule: "I'll help you, but I don't want to be mentioned, not even to your staff." By noon, she had 3 things: a full list of monthly deposits into a trust, account tied to some obscure Delaware LLC, a trail of money filings buried under layers of contractors and tricks, and 2 giant red flags that no oversight committee had ever caught. She brought it all to her chief of staff, Alan Darby. He skimmed the papers, then set them down. "Jesus, Jasmine, this could end your career." She looked at him. "Or it could be the truth." He leaned back in his chair. "If you bring this up without more proof, without something rock solid, no one will back you. They'll call you an opportunist." She nodded. "I know." Still, she pushed forward. That weekend, she flew to Naples, Florida. She used her personal card. No aides, no press, just her and a single burner phone. Layla Dawson lived in a plain stucco house behind a private gate in a quiet neighborhood near the Everglades, the kind of place where no one asked questions. Jasmine parked down the street and walked the rest. Layla answered the door wearing jeans and a loose t-shirt. Mid-30s, no makeup, eyes tired in a way no concealer could fix. "You're early," she said, like she'd been expecting her. "Sent the file," Jasmine said. Layla nodded once and stepped aside. Inside, the living room was neat but clearly lived in toys in the corner, a piano against the wall, music sheets still open. Jasmine scanned the room, then sat on the edge of the couch. "You know what you're asking me to do," Layla said. "I'm not asking anything yet," Jasmine replied. "I'm here to listen." They talked for 3 hours, no recordings, just a notebook and memory. Layla told her about the 2011 campaign job, the late-night meetings, the hotel suite in Miami, the pregnancy, the silence. "I thought he was going to handle it," she said, voice low. "Instead, I got a lawyer and the payments." "Started before the birth?" Jasmine asked. "Always on time, never from the same account twice." "And why now?" Jasmine pressed. Layla hesitated. "They stopped, last fall. No warning, nothing. I reached out, no one replied. My lawyer disappeared. I was told to stop asking." At the end, Jasmine asked one more question. "Do you want this story out?" Layla looked over at the piano. "He deserves to know who his father is, but not if it ruins his life." Jasmine stood. "Then I'll make sure it's the father who takes the fall, not the child." They hugged goodbye, unexpected, but real. Jasmine walked back to her rental car, sat with the engine off for nearly 15 minutes. She stared at the notebook on the seat beside her, pen still clipped to the front. That night, she made one decision. She wouldn't leak it. She wouldn't sell it to reporters, wouldn't post it online. She'd say it out loud in the one place where lies were supposed to break. But what she didn't know yet was that the truth had already started cracking everything around it, especially in the First Lady's private wing, where the fallout was only beginning. Melania and Trump hadn't been seen in over 4 hours. By late afternoon, speculation had replaced facts. The White House press office put out a short, awkward statement. The First Lady experienced a minor health episode and is resting. But reporters weren't buying it, not with that timing, not after what had just gone down on live TV. Then photos leaked. A shaky cell phone video showed the edge of her stretcher being wheeled into an elevator. You couldn't see her face, but the navy heels and that signature soft wave in her hair were obvious. That was enough. News outlets ran with it. Melania and Trump collapses following shocking congressional allegation. Chaos in the Capitol. First Lady rushed out amid scandal. The story was too big to bury. The world was watching inside the West Wing. The atmosphere was electric, but not in a good way. Staff whispered in hallways. Lawyers met inside rooms. Some aides wouldn't speak above a whisper, terrified of being quoted. Others were already calling their own attorneys. President Trump had just landed in Boise and gone dark. His plane was met by heavy security and an unmarked SUV. By the time he got the full briefing, the news was everywhere. There was no escape. Back in D.C., Jasmine sat alone in her office. She hadn't left the Capitol all day. Her team kept checking in. Alan, her chief of staff, looked pale and restless. "They're going to hit back," he warned. "They'll come after your family. Dig up everything. Let them," Jasmine said, not looking up from her notes. "I haven't lied. That's enough for me to sleep." "But Jasmine," he said, voice lower now, "they don't fight with truth. They fight with noise, with spectacle." She finally looked up. "Then we keep the signal louder than the noise." Just then, her phone rang again. Restricted number. She hesitated, then answered. "Representative Crockett, a woman's." Voice asked, crisp and steady. "This is Eleanor Shaw from CBS News. We've just confirmed the First Lady is being treated at George Washington University Hospital. We're hearing it's more serious than reported." "How serious?" Jasmine asked, keeping her voice flat. "She fainted. Elevated heart rate. They're running heart tests. But, off the record, some close to her say she was emotionally triggered, that she saw your testimony live." Jasmine stayed quiet. "We'd like you on air tonight, Shaw." Continued, prime time, just 10 minutes. "Tell your side." "I don't need to spin it," Jasmine replied. "The documents speak for themselves." "They do," Shaw agreed, "but most of the country hasn't seen them. They've only heard headlines." Jasmine glanced at her staff through the glass wall. Alan pacing. Another aide on the phone pointing at a folder. A TV replaying the moment she placed the documents on the committee table. "I'll do it," she said, "but no makeup chair, no scripted questions. I talk how I talk. Understood? We'll send a car at 7. She hung up, stood slowly. Alan stopped pacing. Was that CBS? They want me on prime time. You sure about that? No, she admitted. But I'm not backing down. The interview that night was raw. Jasmine sat under bright lights. No notes, no teleprompter. Shaw asked the real questions. Was this political? Was she just trying to sabotage the presidency? What about the child? What about the First Lady? Jasmine answered straight. I didn't leak this. I brought it into the light. That's different. I didn't name the boy. I didn't shame the mother. I only said what the papers already showed, and the First Lady's collapse. Shaw asked softly. I don't take joy in that, Jasmine said, voice quiet now, but I'm not responsible for the choices. That led here. By the end, viewers across the country were glued to their TVs, not for drama, but for something rare, clarity. Still, while the public tried to take it all in, Jasmine was about to get a message from someone she didn't expect. The boy's mother, and this time she wasn't alone. By sunrise, the country was already split, loud and messy. Some saw Jasmine Crockett as a hero. Others painted her as a political hitwoman with a perfectly timed grenade. Social media burned with arguments. Hashtags like #TruthMatters and #CrockettBombshell. And First Lady collapse was climbing the charts. Fox News kept putting up old aides and loyal folks, all saying the claims were fake. She's just trying to distract from the real issues, one pundit said. Another insisted, this is nothing but revenge, dressed up with paperwork. But the evidence, cold factual, stamped with dates, was harder to fight against. CNN played clips of the hearing every single hour. Jasmine's line, "Don't thank me, just do your jobs," had already been turned into 1,000 viral TikToks. Someone even looped it over a beat and made a remix, and it was starting to trend. Even with all the noise, something bigger was happening under the surface. People who never cared about congressional hearings were suddenly watching, not because of politics, but because they felt the weight of what was being said. Jasmine's CBS interview had struck a nerve. She didn't cry. She didn't attack. She didn't brag. She spoke like someone with nothing to hide and way too much to lose by staying quiet at a coffee shop in Madison, Wisconsin. 2 retired teachers watched the clip on an iPad over breakfast. About time someone said it, one muttered. She's brave, the other added. You can tell she's not making it up. In a nail salon in Scottsdale, Arizona, a woman in the next chair leaned over and said, "If that was my husband, I'd collapse too." The White House, meanwhile, went totally quiet. No press briefings, no tweets, no comments from the president. And Melania still in recovery. Her team released one blurry photo of her reading a book in a hospital bed, but it felt staged. Her face said everything exhausted, betrayed, and tired of staying silent. Back in D.C., Jasmine's office phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, activists, lawmakers, some supportive, some furious. And one call was from someone she never thought she'd hear from again. Layla Dawson. Is this a secure line? Layla asked. It is, Jasmine said. What's going on? I can't. Keep quiet anymore, Layla said. Jasmine sat up straight. Talk to me. I want to come forward, on camera. My son deserves to know who he is, and I'm tired of hiding. Are you sure? Jasmine asked. Once this happens, there's no going back. They'll attack you, they'll question everything. I don't care anymore, Layla said. He asked me last night if his dad is alive. What was I supposed to say? Jasmine's voice softened. We'll do this right, quietly, safely. I'll reach out to a journalist I trust. No circus, Layla let out a breath. Thank you. But before Jasmine could hang up, Layla added, there's more. Jasmine frowned. What kind of more? Photos? Personal messages? Things I never showed anyone. I kept them all, for him, just in case. Jasmine's stomach dropped. Okay, let's meet in person. I'm in Baltimore. There's a hotel off Charles Street. I'll text you the name. Rooms under a fake name. Bring everything. I will. As Jasmine hung up, her mind raced. She looked out the window toward the Capitol dome. Somewhere out there, a boy had no idea about the storm swirling around him. Her phone buzzed again, a message from her lawyer. White House preparing statement. Hearing rumors of possible defamation claim. Stay sharp. She tossed her phone on the desk and rubbed her temples. They're not going to win this with lawyers, she muttered. They'll try to bury it with noise. But there was one thing they didn't have, the mother, the proof, and the face of the truth itself. Because if Layla stepped forward, it wouldn't be politics anymore. It would be personal. And nothing spreads faster than a face the public can't ignore. Baltimore was gray that morning. Clouds hung low over the skyline, heavy and wet. Jasmine Crockett's black sedan pulled up outside a small boutique hotel near Mount Vernon. No security, no staffers, just her, a satchel, and a deep breath before stepping out. Layla had picked this spot on purpose. Quiet, ordinary, the kind of place where no one asked questions, as long as the card cleared. Room 504. Jasmine knocked once, then again. The door cracked open with the safety latch still on. "You alone?" Layla asked. "Yeah." The latch slid free. Layla let her in without a word. The room smelled like coffee and nerves. A stack of folders sat on the bed. A laptop glowed on the desk. A shoebox, sealed with packing tape, rested under the window. Layla looked different now, stronger, like something inside had snapped back. "You sure about this?" Jasmine asked. "I've been sure since he turned 12, and asked why his father never shows up," Layla said. Jasmine sat at the desk. "You said you had more." Layla opened the shoebox. She pulled out photos printed on cheap paper, edges curled. One caught Jasmine's grainy shot of Layla on a beach, pregnant, a man's hand around her waist. The face was out of frame, but the hair was clear thin, yellow blonde, combed forward. Layla lifted her phone. "This one I saved." Played a short video, a hotel room, dim light, Trump's voice unmistakable, saying something about, "Keep this quiet and you'll be taken care of." Jasmine froze. "Is that him?" "Yes," Layla said. "Does anyone else have it?" "No." I was scared to even watch it. Jasmine's throat tightened, and the DNA. Layla opened a folder. Inside were 2 swabs, test results stapled from a private Delaware. Lab. Jasmine read the line. Probability of paternity, 99.98%. She leaned back. "I'm going to ask again," she said. Eyes locked on Layla. "Are you ready to be seen?" Layla hesitated. "If I stay quiet, they win again. And I'm done with that." Jasmine nodded. "We'll do this right. I know a journalist who works slow, careful. You'll control the story, not them." Layla smiled faintly. "I just want him to know." "I'll protect you," Jasmine said. They sat in silence for a moment, then a knock. Both froze. Layla peeked. "Room service?" she whispered, confused. "I didn't order anything." Jasmine stood slowly, hand gripping her phone. "Let them leave it. Don't open." Footsteps faded. A minute later, Jasmine's phone buzzed. Unknown number, a text. "You were warned. Back off." She showed Layla. "You think they're watching?" Layla asked. "I think they never stopped," Jasmine said. She snapped a photo of the text, sent it to her chief of staff. "We'll have to move fast now. They're trying to scare us. That means we're close." She slid the folders into her bag. "I'll make copies, hide the originals. You'll speak when you're ready." Layla looked tired, but relieved. "If they come after me, they'll have to go through a member of Congress on national TV. Let them try." Jasmine left through the stairwell, coat, collar up, head low. Outside, rain started falling in angry drops, but she felt clear. They had the papers, the voice, the test, and soon the face. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a pattern, a cover-up. A child ignored for over a decade, and a mother shoved into the shadows just to keep one man's image clean. And now, it was about to blow wide open. But the White House wasn't finished. Not yet. While Jasmine was stacking up evidence, they were setting up a counterattack, and it would strike where it hurt most, her credibility. The headline dropped. Just after 7 a.m. the next morning, Congresswoman Crockett linked to leaked court case, ethics probe, requested. It came from a fringe blog, no real credibility, backed by a PAC with a long history of defending Trump and trashing his critics. But the timing was perfect. Within hours, bigger outlets picked it up. The noise machine had been switched on. Jasmine saw it while sipping her coffee at her desk, morning sun cutting across the papers. She wasn't surprised, just annoyed. Alan rushed in just seconds later, waving a paper. "They're saying you pressured a judge back in Dallas 6 years ago," he said, totally made up. "They're just trying to muddy the water," she replied, already opening the article on her screen. They know Layla's about to speak, so they want to take me down first. Jasmine's phone buzzed again. Another message from her lawyer. Expect subpoena, just smoke for now, stay steady. She tossed the phone onto her desk and stood.
This
isn't about me, she said. It never was. Alan stopped and asked, Are you ready for what's next? If Layla goes public, it'll get messy for her, for you, and for him. I don't need clean, she answered. I need honest. Meanwhile, across the Capitol, Republican leaders were scrambling. Some wanted to defend the president fully, others stayed quiet to quiet. They hadn't expected Jasmine to be this prepared, and they sure hadn't expected Layla Dawson to reappear. Inside the West Wing, Trump's team held an emergency meeting. Leaks said several aides pushed for a full denial, but one longtime communications advisor warned against it. If we lie and she shows a paternity test on TV, we're finished. So instead, the president tweeted, Another witch hunt. I'm focused on running the country, not fake distractions. It was vague, defensive, and had no real answer. But inside Jasmine's circle, the real worry wasn't the noise, it was safety. That evening, she left a restaurant near DuPont Circle after a private meeting with a reporter. She noticed a car parked across the street, same one she'd seen earlier. She slowed down, glancing at its reflection in a shop window. The driver's face was hidden by a cap. The car didn't move. She texted Alan right away. Need security. Now, being followed, he replied in under 10 seconds. On it. Don't go home. Head to Hill office. You'll be met at the entrance. She turned the corner, walking steady. The car followed slow, deliberate. By the time she reached the back entrance of the Raven building, 2 Capitol police officers were already there. One nodded, ushering her inside. She sat in her office, silent, letting the adrenaline calm down. Minutes later, Alan came in and shut the door. We can move you if you don't feel safe. I'm not going anywhere, she said. That's exactly what they want to scare me. But this story is bigger than me. He nodded, then handed her a USB stick copy of Layla's video, just in case. She took it, slipping it into her bag. We're not leaking it yet, she said. She decides how it's shared. Alan frowned. You think the media will treat her fairly? No, she said flatly, but the public might. Alan sat across from her. You've got a small window, Jasmine, if you want to put this somewhere. It can't be erased. Where it has legal teeth, it's now... She looked at him. You're saying testify again? I'm saying call a closed session. Put it all on record. That makes it harder to bury later. She thought for a long moment. Finally, call the committee chair. Tell him I need 30 minutes behind closed doors. Alan nodded and left. Jasmine pulled the USB back out of her bag and held it in her hand. It felt heavier than it should. This wasn't just evidence more, it was a choice. A child's truth, a mother's voice, and a president's mask hanging by a thread. Once she stepped into that room, there'd be no way to pull back. The country would have to face the man they thought they knew. At 2:15 p.m. sharp, the doors to the committee's special session closed. No cameras, no media, just 13 members of Congress, 2 lawyers, a court reporter, and Jasmine Crockett. With a folder in her lap and Layla Dawson's voice still echoing in her head, she had spent the morning reviewing every page, every transfer, every time. Stamp. She'd only watched the video once, but that was enough. It wasn't crude. It wasn't even threatening. It was just damning a man admitting something he'd denied for over a decade. Now, she was ready to say it aloud. Chairman Greeley adjusted his glasses. Representative Crockett, you requested this closed session. You may proceed. She didn't stand. She didn't need to. Each of you has a confidential packet, she said. Inside, you'll find notarized copies of the following: a Florida hospital birth certificate, a Delaware certified paternity test, payment records from a Trump Organization-controlled trust, 3 email transcripts, and a signed statement. From Layla Dawson, the child's mother. She paused. No interruptions. I've also included a personal video of Ms. Dawson, identifying herself and describing her relationship with the president, and a clip from 2011 where the president discusses the pregnancy and staying quiet. Greeley flipped pages, lips tight. Jasmine went on. These are not accusations. They are confirmations. I am not seeking censure. I'm not launching a crusade. I'm doing my job for the people who sent me here. People tired of lies being called leadership. Representative Monroe leaned forward. Has the White House responded to this directly? Only to dismiss them as fake distractions, Jasmine replied. No denial, no legal challenge, no explanation. Another member asked, and the mother, she's willing to go public. She is, Jasmine said. She's ready to protect her son. The room went quiet. One member flipped the packet again, slower this time. Another just stared down at the table. Finally, Greeley spoke. What do you expect from us, Representative Crockett? She looked straight at him. Transparency. Subpoenas, if needed. A vote to refer this for investigation, so the American people know we aren't just props in a broken system. Her voice carried weight, not performance, but conviction. This isn't about cheating or scandal. It's about power, how long it's gone unchecked, how it hides behind silence and headlines, and how one Boyan actual child has lived without his father claiming him because it wasn't politically convenient. She stopped, her jaw tight, and because the First Lady wasn't told the truth, she was blindsided on live TV by her husband's silence. That's not politics, that's cruelty. Greeley leaned back. We'll consider your request. Number promises. I didn't come for promises, Jasmine said. I came for accountability. With that, she stood, nodded once, and left the room. Outside, her staff waited. Alan looked at her face and didn't ask a thing. He just handed her a paper statement from the First Lady's office. Jasmine read the first line quietly. I have been made aware of events that have deeply shaken me, both as a wife and as a mother. I will not speak on them publicly, but I will seek privacy and space to protect my health and dignity. No denials, no spin, just acknowledgement. Jasmine whispered, she knows. Alan nodded. That night, Jasmine didn't go on TV, she didn't tweet, she didn't do interviews. She walked home alone, bag slung over her shoulder, thinking about the boy, about Layla, and about all the women she'd seen silenced, shamed, paid off, destroyed. She'd made her choice. She'd spoken the truth. She knew it wasn't over, not even close. But some stories don't end with fireworks. Some just land heavy and stay there, changing everything without making a sound. Because in a country built on noise, sometimes the quietest truth hits the hardest. If this story stirred something in you, subscribe to the channel. Real stories, real people, truths too heavy for headlines. That's what we share. Don't just watch, stay awake. Stay awake, aware.